people say things like, we shouldn't go to Mexico.
Right, I do hear that a lot.
But what you need to understand that Mexico is a huge country.
Yeah, really.
And they have states like we do, and there's different areas of concerns. Like there's places that we wouldn't go in the United States.
Correct.
You know, and there's places in Mexico that people shouldn't go. But for the most,
I know people are going.
Yeah.
You're telling me.
But you need to look at the states and what the
Okay.
warnings are in those particular states and what they say about it.
The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the producer and not necessarily those of WKTV Community Media.
Hello, West Michigan. This is Grand Tap Media Business TV. My name is Pamela Keim, your host. The spirit of the show is to introduce West Michigan to all the businesses, nonprofits, individuals that can help us thrive in our lives. Well, West Michigan, it's travel time coming up. We're going to get through the holidays, we're going to take down our Christmas decorations, and then we're going to start thinking about what can we do through the months of January and February. If you're really not an outdoorsy person, such as myself that enjoys golf and stuff, I am going to be looking for places that are warm so I can get through those difficult months and then come back in the spring and enjoy West Michigan as we do. So we have a very special guest, Lori Visser. She plans your cruises, she plans your travel outside of the United States when you're ready to venture out and try to enjoy with your family those months coming ahead that you would like to maybe you want to go to Ireland like my son did. Maybe you want to go to other areas. But I want to welcome to the show Lori Visser, and she's going to tell us where are the great spots and where cruises are going to be able to be affordable for some families during this difficult time.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk travel. And
Yeah.
I tell them who you are, what you've been doing, your business, what you can do for people, and especially with people that may be experiencing a little bit of a budget crunch.
Yep.
You might have some ideas of what they can do and still have a great time with their family in those months to come.
Yeah, so I'm a full service travel agent. I do book cruises, but I book all types of travel. Most of my business is outside of the United States. I do some inside of the United States, especially things like Hawaii and that type of thing.
That seems like way out of the United States. I know it's a state, but it's like when people
Yeah.
say they're going to Hawaii, it's a little bit of a flight, but
Yep.
I've never had anybody go, they wouldn't want to go back.
Right.
You know, it's like, they
Right.
feel like it was beautiful.
Yeah, so I do all types of travel. I do groups. Multi-generational is a big thing right now, with maybe grandma and grandpa taking the kids and the grandkids on a trip somewhere. And yeah, so all types of travel, cruising, tours, independent travel. Usually if I'll just ask people, tell me what you want to do, I'll tell you if I can help you. If it's not something that I feel like I can help them with, I can always refer them to another travel agent as well.
Well, you know, some people like the idea that they researched everything, they did it themselves, they said, according to them, right? And then my children that have traveled to Ireland, they're like, it was all through, you know, like such as yourself, it was all planned out. They got there, they knew we're at the hotel, and they liked that too. Even though you could have had a day where you could be yourself and go out and do some other tour
Right.
stuff that you wanted to do. But he was, you know, my son was saying, you know, it's really nice if that long into a country you don't know the area, and there's somebody there to kind of guide you. And they had a great time,
Yeah.
right? And so, you know, so share with us why go with a travel agent as opposed to the people who are like, you know, when we did it ourselves, we went off the grid. And I'm like, well, good for you, but I want to go in places that I want to see if my first time there, I want to see some wonderful things.
Right. And that's what we do. I mean, this is something I do every day, every week, every month. And so it is a full-time career. So we have a lot of connections with places. I send people on different trips all the time. So they are experiencing things. They're also sharing with me their experiences when they get back. We're being trained all the time. We have lots of resources for in-country information. I've been to a lot of places myself. If I haven't, I still have a lot of great ways to research what they're looking for. And I work with every client where they're at. Do they want more independent travel and do things on their own? Would they prefer to have a guide every day? You know, it's really, I listen a lot to what my clients are looking for, and then I find the right experience for them is really what I try to do. Where if you're calling an 800 number or you're doing your research online, that's really geared to get you to book with that company. I say the same thing with cruise lines. I represent over 40 different cruise lines, and I'll listen to what my clients are looking for and then try to find the right product for them. If they're
Right.
just going to a specific cruise line and maybe looking at their website or doing their own research, that cruise line is just trying to get them to get on their cruise ship, and they might not think about what other product might be better for them.
Well, that's
Yeah.
exactly it. We all know the real popular ones out there. We hear the names of them, and I'm not sure. Like, we all had to go through the 2020. I mean, many of my friends had trips planned. They eventually did get the return. So share a little bit about the people that are making these trips or doing these cruises. What about the insurance? They always try to. I know that it really came in handy.
Yeah.
But during certain times, like the hurricane, things like that we've gone through, and people have had to get their money back. But what about anything else? How's that? What is it important to have it? Can you share a little bit about that?
Even years before I became a travel agent, I still did a lot of traveling, and I always kind of just travel insurance. It's just an extra expense. They're just trying to sell me something.
Yeah.
But since I started my agency like 10 years ago, I get to see the problems that people have when they travel, and some of them have been horrific. And luckily, most of my clients do buy travel insurance, because I always tell them it's not what you predict's going to happen. It's usually something totally different. I've had clients where, they're worried about maybe mom or grandma or grandpa aren't doing well, and they're worried that they might have to cancel at the last minute
Or cut their vacation short.
Right, trip interruption insurance.
Yes.
And if they do use it, often it's not even for that reason. Maybe someone tripped and fell in a shower, cut their head, had to go to the hospital and get stitches, and they're on a guided tour. The tour can't stay for them.
Right.
So they have to get the hospital treatment and then get caught up with the tour. I had another, sadly, a client was in a life or death situation on life support in Mexico. That was never predicted,
Right.
And they had to get family members to them. They needed translation services, all the things that maybe people don't necessarily think about until a crisis happens. And so the travel insurance flew a family member down there to be with them. They provided those translation services in the hospital, so they knew what was going on. So it's
Well, a lot of people want to get home if something like that happens. You understand that. It's like you want to be with your own doctors.
Yeah.
And they don't. They handle the emergency, but it's like, okay, when can I get home?
right, and they take care of that as
Yes.
well. And then also even just simple things like misconnection or some lost baggage or.
Well, I will tell you, we had the same. That's the thing that I was telling you about. I wish we would have had that, because we feel like we're still pretty. This was years ago. Pretty healthy, couple. We didn't have to worry about that. Now that we're older than we were 5 or 6 years ago, we might consider having the insurance, because anything could go wrong.
Right.
But anyways, we ended up just like kind of the planes, trains, automobile situation, the movie. We were stuck in an airport though for
Right.
2 days.
Yeah.
And my husband, David, just finally just said, we're not staying here.
Right.
And we had already had the resort. We had things already booked and we were paying for. We didn't want to lose. It was like a
Right.
hotel situation. He had a conference. There was a conference over there. So everything was already paid. We already paid like to go down to Key West. There was so many things that we were going to do on the 5 days that we were there that we had to scale back, that we lost.
Yeah.
And then we finally got there. We had 2 days and we're rushing to get our experience
Right.
because we didn't have,
Right.
we didn't have that insurance. So it's not like, book us again next month. We're not
Yeah.
going to, we lost. No, we ended up in the airport. So we ended up getting through another airline, a flight out of there.
Right.
Because they couldn't, we were stuck on standby.
Right.
For after the second day, I said, not that I'm not a strong person, but after a while, I didn't want to stay in the
Yeah.
airport any longer.
Yeah.
I wanted out of here.
Yeah.
So we had to pay it out of our own pocket.
Yeah.
It became a very costly vacation.
Yeah.
And I wish we would have thought about, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? We learned a lot.
Yeah.
So would we do it different now? Yes. Would I recommend people? Yeah, it's worth it because you just don't know. And ours was just a fog delay, which
Right.
delayed everything
Yeah.
from there forth.
Yeah.
Everybody got backed up.
Yeah.
And you're here, you want your vacation. I've had people said they sat in the airport for 8 hours waiting to get to their spring break vacation
Yeah.
with their children.
Yeah.
And they didn't want, have you, I mean, you could probably hear stories like that.
Oh yeah, I've experienced them and I've heard stories like that. And unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do because the airlines, safety comes first with them,
Right.
and it could disrupt your plans. But you got to remember it's for safety reasons for the most part. So yeah, there's a number of different things you can do in that case. But one of the things that I will do is, even if they can't get out, I'm going to contact the people that were supposed to pick them up at the other end or things like that, and say, their flight's been changed or their flight's delayed. I'll let the people know waiting at the other end of what.
So you can take care of that.
Yeah.
So
I'll
it's
take
not like
care
we
of
have
it.
to make 20
And I
calls.
do that
We
in
can
the
make up.
right, and I usually do a lot of that in the background. Sometimes the clients don't even know I'm doing it, or I'll be tracking their flights, and
That's
then I'll
nice.
know that that's happening, so that I can be proactive in those cases.
Well, it's really good, especially if you're in a foreign country and you might land in another area that you
Yeah.
weren't planning because of weather, which is not
Yeah.
safety reasons, right? That they want to land it early, so you were able to, hey, these
Yeah.
are the hotels I would be staying at. I
Yeah.
could probably set that up for you.
Yeah.
Whatever. So that peace of mind would be worth gold.
Yeah.
I would have loved that.
And then I also I have my own app that clients can see all their travel information on, and then there's a way to contact me through that app. And then also, when I give them their travel documents, I have, these are all the apps you need to have on your phone before you travel. Make sure that, you have all your information in there that will help them in case of emergency, even the travel insurance app. Where they can contact them directly. And the travel insurance company that we use, they offer concierge service.
Okay.
So they can even call them if they want reservations at a restaurant in the city they're in, or if they need help with something, need a translation service for an emergency or something like that.
All right. So you say people are not really too concerned about what some of the unrest that we see going around the world. Some of us, it seems like it's closer than it really is because of social media
Yeah.
and, of course, the news, which they get you to click by giving you all these warnings. All right, so I know my kids are traveling abroad. They're coming back with good stories to share.
Yeah.
So let's talk about where are people traveling? Like my children are planning to go to Belize. Is that right?
Yeah.
Belize, that's the right
Yeah.
word? I've never hardly heard of it. I've heard of it, but I didn't even, where is it? Where are we
Yeah.
going? And, and I know it had to be tropical. But they're doing that in January, and they're not being concerned at all. So tell us, where are people going? What are
Yeah.
they asking you
Yeah.
about some of those concerns?
So one thing we suggest is to look on the U.S. government website and look at the safety warnings.
Okay.
And then, but also there's a nuance with that too, because I've heard people say things like, we shouldn't go to Mexico.
Right, I do hear that a lot.
But what you need to understand that Mexico is a huge country.
Yeah, really.
And they have states like we do, and there's different areas of concerns. Like there's places that we wouldn't go in the United States.
Correct.
And there's places in Mexico that people shouldn't go. But for the
I know
most,
people are going.
Yeah.
You're telling me.
but you need to look at the states and what the
Okay.
warnings are in those particular states and what they say about it. And it's the same thing with every country. Just kind of, the warning might be like yellow or whatever, but look into more detail about what that's about, what areas it's concerning, because it might be areas that tourists normally wouldn't go anyway. When
Okay.
I'm talking about different countries, and you have to remember that other countries have warnings about coming to the United States. I've met people from other countries who said, I would never go to the United States. It's too dangerous. And we laugh
So
about
think
that.
I do
but-
it. Yeah,
Right. So
exactly.
it kind of works both ways. You really have to look
Yeah.
into that. And then the U.S. government also has a program called STEP, S-T-E-P. And you can sign up for that, and then you get warnings on your cell phone if you're in an area. As you travel, you put in where you're going to travel to and what dates you're going to be there, and they will email you, if there's going to be a protest in that city for that day that is expected to be around the U.S. Embassy or something like
Oh,
that.
that's nice.
Yeah, and I
mean,
use
that's-
that a lot, and I always recommend it to my clients. I give them.
It's called Steps.
It's called STEP, S-T-E-P.
Okay.
And it's through the State Department.
Okay, well, one thing about it too is that we do have friends that travel and for business or whatever, they do go in New York City, and they were going into New York City like 2020, 21. You know, they were going in, I think more towards when it was still major, they were still reporting it was they were
Right.
shutting down, right? And they were just like going in for business, and they were having a great experience. And so, you know, you get what you're seeing and what people actually are experiencing. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that none of that has merit, right? It has value to have that information to say in certain areas or whatever. But I know people that have gone to Chicago and had a great time. So, you know, so we're sitting at parties. I'm like, well, gosh, it looks like there was like, well, that's not what we experienced.
Right.
You know, and it's not like that isn't happening. And maybe it's a hit and miss. Maybe they're doing this, you know, there's a
Yeah.
protest and they're keeping away from that. But, you know, my kids all live in Chicago. And so they have certain areas they've moved into
Right.
that are more of their, and that's like any place, you know, it's stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't really, it's not like don't stay, but just maybe do the step
Yeah.
app to kind of be, and
Yeah.
well, my
'Cause-
kids are renting a car in Belize. And I said, well, what side of the road do you ride in this way? Oh, we never really thought about that.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. And it's like, you know, I'm like, well, you know, you might, if it's a British,
Yeah.
if it's an ex-British, I think used to be a
Was-
British colony.
yeah, it used to
I
be
go,
British
there may
Honduras.
be on that side. And they're like, well, would that be interesting? And I go, yeah, that would be. But you know what I'm saying? These are
Yeah.
the things you don't think of. And if you were there, you're like, okay, if you rent a car, remember you're on the other side. You know, you might want to start getting,
Right.
be able to have to get used to that.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, and that's
Yeah.
the type of stuff that I remind people of when they want to, like a lot of people want to go to Ireland and they want to rent a car, and I'm like, you have to remember you're going to be on the other side of the road. Are you comfortable driving in that? And most of the roads are small
Yeah.
roads.
I don't
and
know how they get through all that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's another thing that travel agents do, or at least I do for my clients, is I look at all the kind of logistics of not just what they like want to experience, but how they're going to get from A to B. And because another thing I ask people, they'll like, well, we want to go to Spain or whatever.
Yeah, my son's
And but
been to
we don't
Barcelona.
want to go on a tour. Well, then tell me how you want to get around. Do you want to rent a car? Do you want to take train travel?
Do they have Uber in certain
Yeah,
countries
oh yeah,
still?
sure.
Okay. Well, that's always nice.
Yeah.
And then my son came back with, you know, $200 in euro, whatever they have in Ireland. I don't know what they have. And he's like, that would have been nice but he just kind of never spent it.
Yeah.
Got on the plane, got home. You know, it's not like he can't, you know, put that aside. And he said, I'll probably travel over there again. But anyway, some people might be sitting there going, how do I get rid of this?
Yeah.
And what do I do? How much should I really start with?
Yeah.
Because there isn't. You're coming home and you have to take that to your bank, or I don't know how that all works.
Yeah,
If you
you'd
came
have
home.
to take it to a bank that takes
does the exchange.
And it would be a minimum amount. They're not going to take like 10 euros or 20 euros. Typically, it's going to have to be a minimum amount. I would suggest to my clients to just use the ATM when they're there, based on what they think they need to spend. Instead of taking a lot of foreign currency to wherever they're going, just use a local ATM there and get what they think they need. And they can always just top that up if they need to, but most countries do take credit and debit cards.
Oh yeah,
and-
we kind of
yeah.
figured all that. I
Yeah.
mean, it is the almost.
They're actually
like,
more advanced in Europe than we are with ours. So.
I would imagine, and then you know, going from place. All right, so where's people go to the cruises? Where are they calling you saying, oh my gosh, this is a couple of hot places
Yeah.
that people are calling, and what are they? You know,
Yeah.
what's your thoughts on that? When's the best
Yeah.
time to go?
Yeah.
Start planning.
So a lot of the newer cruise ships are coming out with a lot of new features on them, and those are really popular for families especially.
Okay.
Some people want to be on the latest and the greatest, and they just have the bells and whistles that you can't even imagine. It's hard to even explain them to people until they step on board.
Okay.
At a big cruise ship nowadays is like being in a city. You don't even.
It is. I
Oh,
think
you don't
it's
even
like
feel like-
3 or 5 decks, right? It's
Oh
like a
yeah,
lot.
15 decks and
Okay, more than
Oh,
see,
yeah.
I personally never been on a cruise.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I'm a golfer and I want to be in the golf course somewhere. But I know everybody
Times
else.
are you forget you're even on a ship. Many times you do, because there's just so much to do on board, and then of course you go to all the ports and you can stop in those. So those are fun and exciting things. Royal Caribbean has their new refurbished private island, Coco Cay, that people are just crazy about.
Okay.
And then Carnival just announced they're going to do a similar type, really jacked up kind of private island.
Now for
that'll be open
children.
next year.
What do you think? There's, would you have a recommendation if you're sitting there with three little, or two,
Yeah.
three little kids, you got to be entertained on a ship.
Oh, they all have kids clubs.
Right, okay.
And they're well run and great personnel, and they're broken down by age group. So whether it's Disney, Royal Caribbean, Carnival, Norwegian, most cruise lines, even the high-end ones, will have children's programs.
Well, I just see the water slides and
Oh,
all
yeah.
that kind of stuff like that.
And you can just drop your kids off, and they keep them in age groups so that you don't have, toddlers with teenagers.
Correct.
And they keep them in age groups, and then they have specific activities for that age group. And the kids can come and go. I mean, you can drop them off, pick them up, drop them off, pick them up at all different times of day. So really depends on your children and how they enjoy that type of stuff. The other thing I always tell people is they're going to meet kids from all over the world, and they're going to form relationships with people from other countries, and it's really just a great way for them to learn about other cultures and what kids are like there. And my children have enjoyed that, and now with digital technology they can stay in touch. The older kids can stay in touch with texting and things like that. My daughter still texts a young lady she met on a cruise from Australia. They still keep in touch after 5 years.
Okay, so what about price? I don't know, you can't narrow it down, but what are we looking? Are we an increase of, maybe people have planned it before 20? Right? I mean, are we looking at a huge increase in a cruise, or has that come down so they get people back out there? What's your thoughts
They
on that?
did initially when people started booking after COVID. The prices did come down,
Okay.
but now they're back up because cruising is booming right now.
So it's back to booming.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind of exciting
Yeah.
for getting people out
Yep.
and getting beyond. It's
Yeah.
kind of like we went through. I always say, we get through the Depression and the World War II. Okay, now we want to live.
Yeah.
Now we want to live
Yeah.
because we did all the
Oh,
sacrificing, right? And so now we want to get out and live and give our children experiences. I feel like we've been 3 years of trying to feel
Yeah.
safe, and it's like, let's go. Let's go. Let's take the
Yeah.
hill and let's go.
And
And that's what I
people-
think of travel.
Yeah, people are taking bigger trips than they took in the past. They might be on a cruise with a young family, which is a nice way to do it because everybody can kind of do their thing on a
Correct.
cruise ship. But now they're going to the Mediterranean, they're going the Greek Isles. They're still doing the Caribbean, of course, or they're doing the Alaska cruise they always wanted to do.
Oh, I always want to do Alaska, Italy. That's the
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
country I mentioned. Israel, I can wait on that one.
Israel is pretty much shut down for tourism right now, and a lot of that's predicated on the airlines aren't flying there.
Correct.
So the thing to remember about that was like using a trusted travel supplier is I had clients that were supposed to be there today, but the suppliers, work with all their people on the town. They're giving them a refund. They were telling us about the people that were in country in Israel when things shut down there, when the bombing started and so on. And before that even hit the news, the company I work with had all the guests over the border into Jordan.
Oh,
So
nice.
before
Okay.
people were even hearing about that action, because their guides are
Well in tune to what's going on.
boots on the ground. They
Yeah,
know
they're boots on the
exactly
ground.
what's going on. They
Yeah.
can read into situations that they're thinking, I think we need to get out of here. And that doesn't go just for Israel, but a trusted guide. A lot of times people don't want to take a guided tour, but I try to remind them of the guides that are there. They know their stuff. Not just safety and well-being of the guests, which is very important, probably the
There's some
top
people that are
importance.
adventurous, and other people are like, I want to experience it
Yep.
through the eyes of people who live here.
Yep.
I want the backstory and the history of these
Yeah.
buildings, churches, and
Right.
that's the stuff I love.
Yeah.
And then, if I come again, I would feel a little bit more to venture out.
Yes.
But I figure I'll meet some people, and they'll be able to give me some advice.
Yeah.
So now that we're talking about advice and traveling, how can people reach you?
Yep.
And how they can learn more, and just tell them, just having that conversation, and just tell them what's your plan for your family, what's your budget, and this is
Yeah.
what we can do for you. So
Yeah.
how do they reach Lori Visser?
Yeah. So
Look right into there and let them
yeah.
know.
You can reach me at Visser, so LVISSER at cruiseplanners.com. And my website is www.globespinnertravel.com. And my phone number is 616-263-1777. All those ways.
I know we just talked about you're going to share a little bit where everybody would love to travel, but you just don't do cruises. You do other locations too. So share with us on where do people want to go.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to go take a cruise, where are some of those places you might want to visit?
Yeah, super popular in the last year, and then coming up for next year are Greece, Italy, Croatia.
Okay.
And then in the Pacific area, Japan's always popular. New Zealand's been really popular, and Australia. They were some of the last to reopen after COVID, so people have had a pent-up demand to go there. And then all places in Europe really
Why
are
are people
popular.
going to, I can't remember if it was Iceland or Greenland. They're doing something like that.
Iceland's super popular, and
Yeah.
then now Greenland's starting to get a little bit popular. Greenland's not very populated itself,
Yeah.
but there's
Well, they were bikers. I mean, they took their motorcycle. They had
Yeah.
the means to do that.
Yeah.
And they did the whole, I'm like, where are you at? Well, we're in, Greenland. We're just traveling around with a bike.
Antarctica's another big one that
Is it
people.
really?
Yeah, that's another big one, and that was my 7th continent to plan a trip for people too. So that was exciting.
Well, that is exciting to have that experience. I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah.
I know you can look on the internet, but a lot of things, sometimes you have to realize not everybody is ethical.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They
Yeah.
tell the truth on that one. That's why
Yeah.
it's called Greenland, isn't it? And it's more icier than
Yeah.
ice. You're right.
Yeah, they're kind of the opposite. Yeah.
They're the opposite. You think you're going to go and see lots of green, and you
Yeah.
find out they were trying to attract people to come there.
Yeah.
See, so it happened back then too.
Yeah.
Misinformation.
Yes.
So it'd be best to go through you, your first time visiting a country.
Yeah.
Have a great experience. You don't want to have
Yep.
regrets. When you're taking your whole family, because they always look to mom and dad. Why did you bring us here?
And then always popular is the Caribbean, and either all-inclusives or any type of stay in the Caribbean in the winter is popular. So
Yeah, and you spend a lot of money on vacation. All right, so we want to thank Lori Visser once
Yeah.
again.
Thank
This is Pamela Kine from Grand Tap Media. We always wish you good things, and we will see you next time. Take care, everyone.